Okay, part 2 of the '04 Chrysler Sebring with the mysterious speedometer reading while the car is sitting still. It happens in park or drive. It may happen in reverse. I didn't try that. We made a video, part 1, showing the speedometer starting to register about 10-15 miles per hour while the car was sitting still. It seemed to happen when the fans were coming on. We may have this narrowed down. We're going to show you what we found. Okay, to duplicate the problem, what we're going to do is we have the key on right now. We have our scan tool hooked up, and we're going to start it and watch what the speedometer does on the initial startup. All right, look at that. Went to about 20 miles an hour there, and look at our output RPM actually spiked up right there when it first started. You can see that right there, spiked up. Now it's registering 0, but it spiked up when we first started. So let's see what we need to do to keep that from happening. All right, the first thing we're going to do is we got the air box off this car. We're going to go down here to the transmission. We're going to go to the output speed sensor, which is right. This is the input right there on the cooler lines. The output's right there. Those beige-looking things. So we're going to unplug that first and see if the problem goes away to kind of rule out the sensor in the transmission. All right, as you can see, we've got the output sensor unplugged now. So let's crank it up now and see if anything's different. Okay. Alright, let's crank it up now with the output sensor unplugged, see what happens. Alright, looks like the speedometer stayed at 0, and looks like the output, where is it? Output RPM stayed at 0 as well. So does this mean it's in the bad output sensor? Yeah, possibly it could be, but we're going to run another test on it just to make sure. Alright, output sensor is plugged back up, as you can see. Let's try to make sure the problem comes back. Let's crank it up with the output sensor plugged in now. Alright, so there it is. The problem's back with the output sensor plugged in. And as you can see, RPMs on the output sensor spiked up to 1300. Let's try one more thing though. This car had a dead battery. We had to keep jumping it off. And it's kind of whining noise too. So let's try to unplug the alternator, see if it makes any difference. Okay, we're at the alternator now. We're just going to unplug it right here. Pushing the little tab and unplug that thing, and you disconnect the alternator from the car, basically. And let's crank it up now and see if anything, if the results are different. All right, we're going to crank it up now with the alternator unplugged. Okay, and as you can see, the problem went away just like it did with the output sensor unplugged. So what does this tell us? We know if we unplug the output sensor, the problem goes away. This sensor right here. And we know if we unplug the alternator with this plug right here, the problem goes away. Now, being that this car has a dead battery and I have to jump it off quite often, and it's also whining pretty bad, I'm going to try the alternator first. Actually, I'm going to do them both. I'm going to do the alternator and the output sensor. The output sensor is very expensive, but it may be that the alternator is interfering with the output sensor frequency, and the only way that it interferes is if the circuit's complete, meaning the output sensor is plugged up. So the easiest thing to do is going to be to put an output sensor on. We can try that first. I really don't think that's going to fix it, but that's the least expensive thing to try. I'm leaning more towards the alternator, and being that we have to jump the car off, if that doesn't do it, then we've got a problem somewhere with the wiring, maybe giving some interference to the output sensor signal. I looked that over pretty good, traced it all the way up to the PCM here. I didn't really see any problem with it interfering anywhere or touching. So I'm going to try the output sensor first and then the alternator, and we'll post it, and when we get this car fixed, let you know what happened. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.